Good morning, Jeffco. It is great to have you here. I'm Shauna with Jeffco PTA, and we are excited to kick off our 2020 Fall Jeffco PTA Leadership Conference. This is open to all PTA members in all of Jefferson County, and we actually invite folks from other regions throughout the state as well so that they can get their training that they needed. This morning, so our keynote speaker and the person who's going to kick us off is Dr. Susan Leach. She is phenomenal. She's a member of our Jeffco PTA board. She is the Chief Student Success Officer. Basically, everything that we set as our priorities during this term happen to be the departments that fall under her job. She's phenomenal. She's friendly. She is very much for children, and I am so very excited to present to you Dr. Susan Leach. Susan, kick it off. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Let me share my screen really quick. Okay, here we go. So thank you for inviting me to speak this morning. I'm a relative newcomer to Jeffco, so I've been really impressed with this organization. I've been acquainted with a number of districts around the country that really struggle with parent engagement, so I've just been so impressed with what I've seen here. It's very refreshing to see the level of engagement that parents in Jeffco schools have. I know the theme is You Matter, and I would just say that your engagement matters. It matters to your children. It has a direct impact on the education that they receive. So I would just applaud you on your attendance here today and your involvement in this organization. So since I'm new and I realize many people don't know me, I'm going to be a little vulnerable today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself as well as some of the things I've learned over time, both professionally and personally, and how that impacts the way we rear our children. So let me get started. I am the second youngest of 6 children. These are my brothers and sisters and I, and that's me with the little boy haircut there on the bottom row. People used to say to my mom, "Oh, what a nice young boy you have." And of course, I would just go ballistic because I was like, I hate my hair like that. But that was it. And so I was raised in Erie, Pennsylvania, and you can see like the red dot there. It's kind of centered about halfway between Buffalo and Cleveland, right on Lake Erie. It's a beautiful city. Due to lake effect snow, our claim to fame is that we're usually in the top several locations in the country for most snowfall. So that's where I spent most of my life. In my 30s, at some point, I found myself an uneducated mother in a very unhappy and unhealthy marriage. My husband at the time had developed some pretty significant mental health issues in his 20s. And so originally was very committed to staying in that marriage, and then at some point realized this is really negatively impacting my children and I need an exit strategy. So I knew I couldn't support myself and 4 kids with no skills and no education. So this was a really scary time for me. And I, after much deliberation, decided I need to get an education for myself. So I enrolled in college, and the decision I made was that I would become a teacher. Teaching, I thought, would allow me to be on the same schedule as my kids, which I know is attractive to many teachers, and that's one of the reasons they go in, but it would also allow me the ability to support myself and make a difference in the lives of children. And I love children. I loved being a stay-at-home mom. I volunteered at my kids' school a lot, and so I felt like I had a pretty good idea of what I was getting myself into, and I thought I'd be very happy teaching. I also loved being in college. It was hard managing that load with 4 kids at home and navigating a difficult marriage, but I was a really good student and I found it invigorating. And if any of you are familiar with how your coursework goes as a teacher, you know that you do your coursework, and then towards the end, you do a practicum. So you kind of are in the school for a few days a week before you do your student teaching. So it's kind of like your precursor to your full-time semester of student teaching. And so, yeah, I was really excited, and I started the practicum, and I absolutely hated it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine myself doing this for the rest of my life. I just wanted to be more active. And at the same time, I found myself being really attracted and curious about the students in the class who weren't, like the outliers, the students who weren't quite getting it. And I was trying to figure out what's going on with this kid, what's happening. And so at the time, I had a really great professor, and she introduced me to the field of school psychology. And quite honestly, I'd never heard of it. And I'll just jump in here and tell you that I am a first generation college student. My father had a sixth grade education. My mom graduated from high school but did not go to college. And just to be blatantly honest, when I was in high school and I was a good student and my friends were looking at colleges, and I came home and said to my mom, "Are we going to go look at colleges?" And she said, "Oh, honey, people like us don't go to college. That's for rich people." You know, and she just didn't know. And I didn't realize that. It wasn't until much later that I realized all of the resources that were available and that there were options for people like us. But when I learned about school psychology, it was just like this whole new world opened up for me. It was really a marriage of all of the things I loved. I could still work with children. I wouldn't be in the same classroom all day. I could still work on the teacher schedule and be available for the kids and home during the summers. The downside of that was that I was going to have to stay in school quite a bit longer. So I had another 2 years of coursework full time and then a full year internship. Uh, so I proceeded through the coursework, loved it, was happy. And at the age of 38, I was able to earn an $18,000 a year internship. And I left my marriage with 4 children and started completely over. So 2 years in after that, we relocated to Jacksonville, Florida. I had accepted a position at Duval County Schools in Jacksonville. It's quite a bit larger than Jeffco. It's the 20th largest district in the state. And I was very happy working there. It was a really rich professional, personal experience. It can't say enough about it. It was just a great place to be. So fast forward to about 2016, my oldest, Kate, who was a nurse, followed this very several long years dream of hers of moving to Colorado. So she had actually applied to CU Boulder as in high school, and I said, "What? That's an interesting choice. Why there?" And she said, "I don't know. I just feel like I would love it there." She had never been there. So anyway, she, as an adult, had an opportunity to come out and work for the Craig Hospital, and she said, "Mom, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it." So we packed her up, and I drove with her to Colorado, got her settled in. And shortly after flying back to Florida, she began lobbying. "Mom, you need to move out here. Mom, you would love it out here. It's just amazing." And I said, "Honey, it sounds great, but I love it here. I have a job that I love, and I have meaningful work, and I just bought a house, and I'll visit when I can, but I'm not moving." And as you know, if you have kids, they tend to be persistent, and she persisted, and she worked on me for quite a while. So at some point I said, "Look, I'll keep my ears open, and if something happens, I'll look into it, but don't get your hopes up, because I would have to feel really good about this to walk away from everything here." So uh, in about 2018, I got an email alert for this position in Jeffco. And I remember, and it was a director position, not the position I'm in currently. But I remember texting her, and my text said something like, I just got an email alert about a new job. It's in Golden, Colorado. Have you ever heard of Golden? Do you think it's very far from you? She was living in Lakewood. So she said, Mom, yes, lots of exclamation points. Please, please, please apply. And I said, please don't get your hopes up. I'm going to look into it. So I applied. Shortly after that, I got a call from Debbie Ward. And if any of you know Debbie Ward, she's probably the most incredible person on the face of the earth. And I just had this amazing phone call with her and hung up the phone feeling much differently, like maybe this is something I want to check into. So I was invited for an interview, booked my flight, flew out to Denver that following Monday, stayed until Thursday, went through great interview, got called back for a second interview. And the bottom line is I got on the plane and had a job and an apartment, a lease signed for a new apartment. So it was done. It was a done deal and I was moving to Denver. And I have no regrets about that. It's been a great decision. So let me get back to, I'm kind of moving off my notes here. So when I tell people about my story and how I got here, because it's a question I get asked a lot here, like how'd you end up here? And that I'm new to this. It's a second career for me. I was a stay-at-home mom for quite a while. And they say, how did you do it and how did you manage? And I think probably some of that was just you're in survival mode and you do what you need to do and you do what you need to do to take care of your children. But it was hard. We struggled a lot. I struggled financially. I struggled moving to a new state where I had never been to Jacksonville and moved there with 4 kids and didn't have a support system there. And as you know, when you have children, when one of them's sick and, I was the only show in town, so there wasn't anybody coming in. I couldn't call my mom and say, hey, can you come over and watch the kids? And so we struggled and it was tough. But I want to share with you some things that I think are critical for us as parents that I've learned. And really, it's a combination of both personal and professional experience. And they're just things that over the years I've found are just critical for us as parents to learn as we're growing kids that we want to be productive members of society. The one thing I'm not going to talk about today is COVID because I think we've all had enough of COVID. On the upside, it does allow us to do these kinds of things in our pajama pants, and I love that. So. Yep. One of the most important things that I have seen play out time and time again is this. Adversity is a good thing. As a parent, I know that sounds counterintuitive. One of the hardest and most gut-wrenching things I ever go through as a parent, even as my children are adults now, is to watch your child suffer with something. Our immediate reflex as a parent is to just jump in and fix it. We don't want anything hurting our babies. We want to remove obstacles for them, and you even want to remove the most remote potential for pain or discomfort for them. It's just what we do as parents. But I'm just going to repeat this again. Adversity is a good thing for children. It really is. When we overcome adversity, we build confidence and resilience. We develop emotional and mental strength, and those skills are like muscles. The more we utilize them, the stronger they become. Children, and I would argue every one of us, need to use these regularly in order to grow and strengthen them. On the other hand, if we don't give children the opportunities to practice and hone these skills, they atrophy. And when we jump in and rescue or fix things for them, we rob them of the ability to problem solve, figure things out, and find success for themselves. So if you think of it, what you're really doing is you're helping yourself. You're relieving yourself of the discomfort you feel when you watch them struggle, and it's hard. But then what we wind up doing is kind of crippling them because they don't learn how to do it for themselves. From what I've seen professionally, this is a trend that's getting worse over time. I'm often reminded of this cartoon that appeared quite a while ago. I saw it years ago, but if you're a Gen Xer like I am, you recognize that slide on the left. You did not want the school calling home to talk to your parents about something you did wrong, because you were getting in twice as much trouble than you got in at school, whether it was grades or not doing your homework or you were misbehaving. You did not want this happening. And yet today I see what's happening on the right play out in schools all the time. Spending the last 15 years in education, I could probably tell you some stories that would make your head spin. And I'm just going to say that I am fully aware that there are times when, as a parent, you need to advocate for your child. That is your job. And so that's not what I'm suggesting here. I what I'm trying to say is I think we've become a society that is over advocating, and it's done in a way that's not doing our children any favors. So it's not helping them build the skills that they need to successfully navigate this world. I'm sure you're all familiar with the term helicopter parent, and we define helicopter parent as a parent who takes an overprotective or excessive interest in the life of their children. And I say that in an unhealthy way, an over excessive interest. There's a book called Teacher Misery by Jane Morris, and I want to read you just a small passage from her book. She shares some real life examples of some helicopter parenting. So she writes, and I'm going to quote here: "There were Rolf's parents who gave their son's essay to a global distinguished professor of journalism at some fancy university who did not agree with the grade I gave it. They insisted that I change his grade, quote, as soon as possible, or give him the grade he unquestionably deserves, end quote. The parents were so persistent that I did end up changing the kid's grade. Then there was Seymour's dad, who threatened to complain to the school board if the school suspended his son for bringing a nail gun to school and shooting nails at random objects and threatening to shoot them at students. Seymour only got detention. When Rupert earned a B in my class, his father started email bombing my administrators about my incompetence as a teacher. I had to sit in a meeting and show every single assignment and explain the expectations and the resulting grade, while my supervisor confirmed that everything was status quo. The father continued to try to find reasons why the B was unfair. The meeting promptly ended with a dramatic, "This isn't over yet." Next, the father went to the principal. The principal set up a panel of other English teachers to look at the work I had graded, for no extra pay, I might add. They all agreed that it was fair and accurate. His next move was to show up in the school parking lot near my car, waiting for me to discuss my grading policies. He's currently suing the school district, claiming that the grade, a B, caused his son severe physical and emotional suffering, along with decreased college admissions chances, lost scholarship, and loss of future employment opportunities, end quote. All these aren't my stories. I have many that are similar. But I'll also say that helicopter parenting is kind of 2010. Now we have bulldozer parents. These are the parents running around frantically in service of their children. They bring things to school that the child forgets. They complete projects for their children because they get tired of hounding them to work on them, but they also don't want them to get a bad grade. I've seen parents literally complete their child's homework for them, and then they rationalize to me with statements like, "I just need to get them through 5th grade," or "I just need to get them through 10th grade," or "I just need to get them to graduation." How about this? The whole college admission scandal. This is an extreme example of bulldozer parenting, the lengths that these parents went through to get their children what they wanted. And I wonder to what end and what they accomplished, what example they're setting for their young adults. The sense of accomplishment we all feel and I would argue our children share this, when we earn something honestly, is a feeling that stays with you. And it's that same feeling I referred to before. It propels us to take new chances and not give up the moment we're faced with a roadblock. So, what do good parents do when their children are struggling with adversity? They provide encouragement. They tell them they believe in them and their ability to figure things out. They tell their children that they're not going to jump in and solve the problem and fix things because they know they can figure it out. Good parents have conversations with their kids when they're struggling. So, what does that sound like? I'm sure many of you have been in this situation. You could say, you encounter your child looking like this. Hey, you look perplexed. What's up? I'm sensing some frustration. Are you okay? And your child might say something like this. Well, I was in math class today and Miss Smith never even called on me once, even though I had my hand raised. And then Alec told me that I was out last week. I missed the permission slip for the field trip and now I'm not allowed to go. So at this point, a helicopter parent would be racing to their smartphone where they have the school on speed dial to make sure that this gets corrected immediately. That teacher will start calling on my son. I will make sure that this kid is on that field trip. Let's see how they respond when the principal finds out about this. I'm sick of this school. I'm sick of this teacher. On the other hand, calmly listening, empathizing with your child, saying things like, oh man, that makes sense. Now I get why you're so frustrated. What do you think you could do about that? One of the most important things about that interaction is modeling for your child how we respond to adversity. We don't fall apart, we don't tantrum, things just aren't always going to go our way. So then we set to work to overcome that obstacle. And it might be difficult, it might be scary, but it's a natural part of life. This isn't the first or the last time. It's going to happen again. So how do we prepare for that? You guide your child in working through the problem, and you continually allow them ownership of both the problem and the solution. To the extent that you practice these things with the smaller problems, they're going to be better equipped to deal with the bigger problems. I always required my children to be involved in one activity. And I'll just say that I have some very strong opinions about kids who are overscheduled. I think that's unhealthy. But I always wanted them to be involved in at least one thing. So whether it was a sport or a club or lessons, that was just the rule in my house. And that's really tied to another lesson that I think is really important, and it's about the importance of finishing things. And I spoke about this story at a graduation several weeks ago, and I think it fits here. If you were at that graduation, I apologize that you're going to hear this again, but I do think it's relevant. So Maria Shriver is a niece of JFK, and she's written a lot about her experiences growing up in the Kennedy clan. And she talks about one of the lessons that she learned from her mother, and when she was involved in a sport or an activity and she just was over it, and for whatever reason she wanted to quit. And her mother would always say, no, finish it properly, and then you can feel free to move on to the next thing. And there are some lessons in that. Finishing it properly, it's such a simple message, but I get reminded of this time and time again. I've used it with my own children. I've used it with myself when I've been tempted to quit something. And I'll just say the importance of finishing ties back to some of these other things that we've been talking about. It builds confidence. It builds resilience. When we see something through to the end, we feel a sense of accomplishment. It feels good when you say, I did it. And when we feel better about ourselves, we're, again, more likely to take on other challenges, even if they're a little tougher than the last challenge, because you have that confidence of having finished something. Um, Powering through the hard things makes us stronger and better to take on other hard things that come along. When we're not resilient, those minor setbacks can completely derail us or derail our children. The good news is this is also like a muscle. If you don't have a lot of resilience, you can get it. And the more you have, the more likely you are to deal with these setbacks that come in life. Instead of roadblocks stopping you in your track, you find ways to navigate through them and around them. You find detours and new roads, and you make it to your destination. It doesn't mean it's not hard. I'll just say that again. Some of these things are very hard. It just means you know how to deal with hard things. So my son, Sam, my youngest, was quite ill when he was born. He spent considerable amount of time in Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and had some surgeries. And at some point, he was around 10, and we really felt like the bulk of his medical issues were behind him. He was doing quite well, and he tried out for the football team in Florida. We had moved to Florida by then. And it was hot, and we're from Pennsylvania, so we were still getting accustomed to the heat there. And so the players were running laps, and at first week of practice, and Sam comes off the field and says he's dizzy, he feels like he's going to pass out. And so that wasn't too uncommon. The coach said, you know, I'm sure it's the heat. Get some water, sit down, take a rest. And so after that continued to happen for about the next week, we decided that maybe we needed to go see his cardiologist. And so what ended up happening is they, despite all of his previous medical issues and treatment and all of the diagnostics that had been done, they ended up diagnosing him with a congenital heart condition. And he was facing possible surgery. They were trying to decide whether they needed to operate or not. So just as the season started, and I'm the team mom, and he's benched and he can't go, and he's possibly going to need surgery. So I think the easiest thing for us at that point would have just been to just scrap it. I don't think anybody would have blamed us. You know, we had a legitimate reason to not go anymore. But I was thinking about this story, and I thought, you know, I've committed to helping this team, and I was doing a lot to help them. And Sam joined the team, and so we made a decision that we were going to finish it properly. And so he stayed on as the team manager, and I stayed on as the team mom, and we had a really great season. And we made some friends that year that we still keep in touch with today. It's really cool. And Sam will be 23 this month. Actually, next week, Sam's turning 23. And I'd like to think that that lesson has really impacted him over time, and that I think he'll probably pass those same lessons on if he has kids someday. I hope, which I hope he does. The last thing that I think is super important for parents is that you take care of yourself. That's easier said than done. Trust me, as a single mom, I realize that, especially when you have a family that you're trying to take care of. I missed a slide there. So I'm just going to say that when you're on the plane, and you all know this, you go through that pre-flight presentation every time you get on the plane before you take off, and the flight attendant always tells you to put on your mask. And here's the verbiage they use: in case there is a loss of cabin pressure, yellow oxygen masks will deploy from the ceiling compartment located above you. But then they say this in some different ways. Some say if you're traveling with children, make sure you place your own mask on before you place your child's on. And we wonder about why do they do that? Because you're no good to them if you're not taken care of. And it's the same analogy that I would use with your own self-care, that unless you are right and you're taking good care of yourself and you're in a healthy place, you can't be the best parent that you can be. And I know the world's crazy and things are moving fast, and we often forget about this, or we put it off and we think we're going to do it tomorrow. But I'm just here to tell you that it's so important to be very intentional about this and about attending to our own self-care. It's not selfish, and even though it feels that way at times, it's just necessary. So how do you put on your own mask? I would argue that these 4 things, if you can knock these 4 things out, you're doing well. Taking care of your spiritual, physical, psychological, and social needs will help you feel your best. Even when you feel like there isn't a spare minute in your day, and I know that's probably for many of you most days, even if you can take 5 minutes to prioritize yourself, you will reap benefits from that. So what does that look like? And I'll just say, for everybody on this call, that answer will vary. It just depends on so many things. It's your family situation. Are you a single parent like I was? Do you have 4 kids? Do you have 1 kid? Do you have babies? Do you have teenagers? What's your financial situation? Like, that kind of determines what you have the ability to do. That's not a limiting factor in any of this by any means, but it just changes what your answers might be. So here's some food for thought. Spiritual wellness really is about one's values, beliefs, your purpose in life, and you can do this in any number of ways. For some people, they satisfy this by going to church, but it could also be a meditation, a 5-minute meditation. It could be the yoga you did this morning. It could be connecting with nature. Some people do inspirational readings. When we care for our physical health, that's something that can be a family affair. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I would say good sleep hygiene, healthy eating habits, regular exercise are all essential. There's some research out there, and this is kind of a, last several years we hear things like exercise is the new Prozac, but there is actually some research out there to say for mild and moderate depression, good exercise can be just as effective. Now, my disclaimer here is I'm not providing advice. So if you are on some kind of medication, I'm not suggesting that you stop taking it and just start exercising. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that, and I'm going to talk about your psychological health in a second, but the advice that I normally give to people is, these are my starting points. If you're feeling like, I think I might need medication, well, look at your diet. Look at your exercise, look at your sleep hygiene. Are you drinking water? If you're doing a really good job at all of those things and then you're still being impacted, I'd say it's probably time to go see your doctor. But a lot of times we can cure many issues just through the things that I'm mentioning on this slide. Our psychological health is something that our culture has only more recently really embraced openly. One of the best ways to care for your psychological health is simply talking to people, talking about your feelings. Sometimes that's just a good friend is all you need. Other times we need a bit more than that, and you turn to the services of a professional. But there are ways that you can do that. As I said, you can talk to a friend, but journaling is another really effective way to get your feelings out. Another thing something that I personally do that you see on the screen there is a gratitude journal. I keep a gratitude journal at work. It's in my desk, and every day I write down 3 things that I'm thankful for. It helps. I love looking back over it when I need a little boost. But the research says that this one practice alone results in positive changes to mental health and well-being. There's a Harvard researcher and author, his name's Sean Achor. It's A-C-H-O-R, like anchor with no N. He has an amazing TED Talk if you haven't seen it, but I'm gonna just quote him. He says quote, something as simple as writing down 3 things you're grateful for every day for 21 days in a row significantly increases your level of optimism, and that holds for 6 months. Other studies show that gratitude increases willpower, helps keep you calm, and can even boost employee morale. There's one other piece of research that I find fascinating because it really resonates with me, and that's in times of high stress, many women find comfort and stress relief in caring for their families. This is true for me. When I'm super stressed, I love baking for my kids. I love cooking for my kids. It is hugely stress relieving, and it's something that they've actually researched. And so it makes sense to me why this is helpful. And it's just one thing that works for me. So socially, caring for your social needs, this is another way to refill your tank. It can also be covered in many of the other areas we discussed. So I'll give you a great example. For me, a good hike with my girlfriends checks off all these 4 boxes. I'm out in nature connecting, I'm talking about my feelings with my friends, I'm getting some exercise, and I'm getting some social workout. So there are many things you can do to check all of the boxes, but the social aspect of this is really important. There's also a lot of research about social isolation, and chronic social isolation increases the risk of mental health issues like depression, anxiety, substance abuse. It also leads to some chronic health conditions, or can be associated with them, like high blood pressure and heart disease and diabetes. And I would just say that if you're interested in this and you're wondering where is a good starting point, technology is amazing. There are so many resources for all of these 4 categories online. There are some pretty cool apps that have come out more recently that are, whether it's related to mental health or physical health or your diet and exercise, your psychological health, social apps. I mean, any one of these you could find some technology related support for. So I would encourage you to look those up if you are interested. So I started off today talking about the importance of giving our children the gift of independence in problem solving and not swooping in at the first sign of trouble and fixing everything. Please, please don't be this parent. Don't be the bulldozer parent. Don't rob them of that opportunity to work through things and flex and build those muscles of resilience and confidence. Have high expectations and teach them the importance of finishing things. You'll foster resilience and confidence and grit simply through offering that support and guidance. How do we do that? Well, we're really nicely positioned to do that when we are ensuring that we're healthy ourselves, and when we're taking care of those 4 areas that I just talked about. And why do we do all of this? I would just say that for all of its trials and tribulations and hard lessons, raising children is one of the most rewarding experiences. I think that it's I would say the best job I've ever had in my life. I love my kids. Then they've grown into really great adults, and I've enjoyed the experience with them. So I would just thank you for having me today. I appreciate your time. I hope you learned something new. It was an honor to be here, and I hope that through the conference and through these subsequent dates that you'll be able to check off some of these boxes of things that I talked about today. So thank you. Thanks, Shauna.
Oh, thank you. I am more impressed with you every time I talk to you. Seriously, yeah. So you have done amazing things. So, and
Thank
to
you.
go through all that with 4 children and be a doctor of psychology, Wow. I think it's a wonderful conversation that we need to have. And as you know, we have John McDonald come to talk about school safety, and we deal with mental health as well quite a bit as our priorities and supporting all those non-traditional learners. And John has talked to us more and more about the number of events that do happen at school, safety events, where we have parents attacking other parents or parents attacking other people's children or staff members. So it is a growing concern. I do think, and I know that I, as a PTA volunteer at my local elementary school, experienced that with a parent myself. So it's a good conversation for us to have. For those of us who are leaders within Jeffco, there are wonderful people on this call, and it's a collaboration. I always like to think about back when Morgan started doing orchestra, and the music teacher taught us about the Suzuki method, and the Suzuki method has to be the home teacher, which is your parent, and the school teacher and the student, and all three legs of the stool have to be together and work together for the benefit of the actual student. So you fit right in with exactly, your speech fit in exactly with the Suzuki method. So because it's a collaboration, so it's great to advocate. And as PTA, of course, we advocate for all students. I'm gonna introduce our board members here right quick. So you've just met Dr. Leach, and she's on our board as one of our advisors. Amy Sapphire is here. Amy, would you speak up for a minute? She's one of our articulation area vice presidents. I'm not going in order of titles. I'm going in order of who I see on the screen. Amy, go ahead and say hi. Okay. Let's see, we have Debbie Carpenter. Can you introduce yourself? She's our Jeffco PTA treasurer.
Hello there. I am the Jeffco treasurer. My children are not really children anymore, but I've been in PTA for, oh my goodness, like 20 years.
But she's my village, so she has to stay. So Heidi Duell is here. So she's one of our articulation area vice presidents. Heidi, can you say hello?
Good morning.
Good morning. Jeanette Hageman, she's one of our new articulation area vice presidents. Can you say hello?
Good morning, everyone.
Wonderful. Jeff Kirk is our Vice President of Communications. Can you say hello to us, Jeff?
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming and doing your speech with us.
Thank you. Jen Granberry is our Vice President of Membership, and her class is up next. Can you say hello for us?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Leach. That was wonderful.
And Jonna Levine is our Advocacy Chair. Jonna, can you say hello?
Hi, everybody. Dr. Leach, that was fabulous, and I so appreciate that you speak as a parent and not speaking down to us. It was a fabulous talk. Thank you very much.
And Kay Slater is our Jeffco PTA Secretary. Can you say hello? She's on mute, but she's here. Mike Elder is our Articulation Area Vice President Mentor and one of my favorite people in the world. Mike, can you say hello?
Hi, I'm glad to see everybody here. Hope you're having a good time.
Wonderful. Lori Avery is one of our advisors here. Lori, you want to say hello? There she is. She's waving. We have Michelle Patterson, our parliamentarian, and she's a past president of Jeffco PTA as well. And again, so I love her. I can't do anything without her. Michelle, wave, say hello. There she is. Natalie Lindeberg is another new articulation area vice president. We are delighted to have you.
Hi, everyone.
Wonderful. Tina Galterio. So she's another Rockstar articulation area vice president. Go ahead and say hello.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Leach. That was a really great speech, and I took notes. So that's amazing.
And we have a recording too, so you can watch it as many times as you want. Wendy, yes, go ahead. She's one of our amazing articulation area vice president. Wendy's also a teacher as well, so we love Wendy.
Thank you, Dr. Leach. That was great. Yeah, I'm a special education teacher here in the district, so we just feel really honored to have you as our leader.
Thank you. So we don't have everyone on the board of Jeffco PTA here because Dr. Leach, I did tell everybody, and I think you got that email. I do not want my entire board sitting for 3-4 Saturdays in front of a computer screen for this long. So it is optional for them when they want to watch or when they want to participate. They are wonderful people. You can find all of us on that jcpta.org tab. Of course, we work on suicide prevention a lot. I'm a suicide prevention trainer, and I want to make sure too, if sorry, my chat is still going, so I'm trying to make sure. Oh, Jeanette. So I think I've covered Jeanette. Yes, Jeanette said hello to us too. Is anybody else from the board on here that I don't see, or maybe your name's under your phone number?
Me.
Casey, there you are. Hello. Casey's one of our advisors as well. So, and she works in the school district as well. She's a social emotional learning specialist.
Counselor for GP.
Thank you. So it's like the longest title in the district. So Casey, one of the reasons we brought her on the board too is her expertise with mental health, and we wanted that to be one of our priorities during our term. And Casey is gifted beyond belief. So she's helped me with my own child as well. So take a look at our website, take a look at all the different classes that we're offering. We also offer monthly meetings. So there's you'll find those under events on our website. And we have programs every single month, and we're trying to be an example of what a PTA meeting really should look like. So rather than having committee meetings and having my entire board talk about fall conference when they're not all working on it, instead we do programs. So join us for those. We have a wonderful lineup this year. So in fact, I got a little sad the other day because we actually have our entire year planned out already. So it's a little bit amazing, and we'll be doing some supplemental things, just like Amy's yoga. We did the Triad Adventures last year, and yoga was the first one that we did, and then we had a pandemic happen. But we can still do a lot of these things, so we're going to keep doing these things, and I invite you to become engaged and just know that you matter to Jeffco PTA. Thank you, everyone, and you have a wonderful day. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.